Adequate notice of this meeting was provided to the Westfield Leader, advertised on January 4th, 2018. Notification was sent to the Star Ledger, promptly posted on the municipal public bulletin board, and filed in the office of the municipal clerk, or in the public and time and place according to the provisions of the Open Public Meeting Law, Chapter 231, PL 1975. Good evening, everyone, and welcome.
Good evening.
Mr. Renard, do you have anything for this evening?
I don't have anything that I want to report now, Mayor. I think there would be some discussion as we go through the council people.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Renard this evening, at this point? Seeing none. Ms. Ariello?
Yeah, I gave you an email about students in government, so the 2 dates that they provided were May 15th or 29th. So I may want to, we'll wait for the other people to get here, but we should resolve that this evening.
I'm open both nights.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you say that.
May 15th or the, excuse me, 29th?
What day is that?
Tuesday. Tuesday.
Either or is okay for me, as long as it's council.
You might want to stay away from the 29th, that's the day after Memorial Day.
Yeah, I would prefer the 15th.
All right. So we'll just have it on the 15th. And then the other item I wanted to mention was, everything is in place, the ordinance and the salary ordinance, not specific salary ordinance is arranged for the hiring of property maintenance officer. I believe you're close to introducing the ordinance. So I was wondering if you wanted me to post that job, or how you want me to proceed?
I would.
Okay,
Is that
pretty
normal?
agree on the job?
Is that normal procedure, so before we vote for the ordinance, or?
Oh, the ordinance is done already.
Okay,
This ordinance creating position is done already.
gotcha.
That
So,
part's
yeah,
done. The other part of the ordinance is so that the employee can do their job. But there's lots of things that have to be done before they can actually go out there and do their job. We have to get uniforms, we have to get laptop, we have to get training. We have to be able to write summonses and stuff, so there's a lot before they hit the ground.
I would just like to make a suggestion though. We do have the fact that the property maintenance ordinance itself is not even yet introduced. So I feel that maybe we want to have that in place before we go through the process of hiring someone.
Is that ordinance describing the duties, or?
No, that ordinance
What
is
is that
the
ordinance going
employee
to do?
the ability to enforce.
Right,
They're-
the other
They're
one on that, the
literally a
duties.
month and a half. So I post a job
I
for,
thought we did this. We
can
didn't.
I finish? I post a job for a week, 2 weeks, wherever. I interview, I take applications. Next council meeting, April 10th. Maybe I'll have a name. No, I highly doubt it. I won't have a name until the end of April. April 24th, I give you a name, and we have to train the person. It's literally a month before they're out there doing the job. And I think you're ready to introduce the ordinance, right?
We need to discuss it tonight, right? And then
Yeah,
potentially introduce it at the next council
At the next
meeting.
yeah.
So,
So you'll, that's just for him to go to enforce. He doesn't even have to like, it's gonna be a while for that, you know, whatever. You want me to post
how
the
long
job?
would it be posted for? What are you thinking, 30 days?
No. No, it just maybe 70, 30 days to have a candidate interested in the position.
I don't have any problem posting it.
I mean,
I think that there
We
has
have
to
to
be,
order uniforms, that takes weeks, we have to get a laptop, we have to get a phone set up, we have to get training.
I think this
develop a
council has all,
procedure.
has not expressed the fact that they don't want to.
It's a long time
I
before
thought we
he's.
We
all-
all,
I thought it was
we all agree,
unanimous.
so I'm okay with pursuing with it.
That's correct.
Okay, so the range we think we set was 17 or 18 to 22. Why don't we
Just
just
at 17.
feel around and see what the person's looking for in that range, or set a range, set the number?
Well, you know, I'm gonna pick the lowest, so I mean.
Well, I would feel more comfortable just picking a number, and then also too with the length of time that it's advertised for, I think around 15 days would make me feel a bit more comfortable, just to give applicants ample time.
I was gonna say, if we could do it a little bit more, just to make sure we get a few more in.
Mhm.
We're sometimes not getting that many of anything.
Right, so,
Do we have any other towns nearby with what they're?
well, at different points in time, when we were investigating this as a possible shared service, those other municipalities neighboring us have usually part-time employees doing that task, and in speaking with a few individuals, I think we should be able to get a few applicants for this job.
Yeah, it also seemed like every time we were trying to get a shared service agreement, the person was quitting or something.
This isn't a shared service, this means.
No, I know,
Correct.
I know.
But I'm
Correct,
just talking
but
about the actual salary.
there could be some
range.
interest there.
Was there an indication that you guys found as far as the salary ranges that you saw from other towns? If you were discussing what that salary range should be?
I think it should be at least $20 an hour, if somebody has some level of experience with construction or property maintenance. You know,
Well, that was the max of what,
22 is the max.
Right, keep in mind, we budgeted $5,000 in this year's budget for this, so we want to make sure that that's adequate. It's to get us started. I mean, this is just year one, launching this. And I believe the numbers from Cranford for a part-time employee was about 20-something thousand a year. Granted, it's Cranford, a much larger town, but that was on a part-time basis. So,
Why don't we leave it open-ended right now, and I'll get some applicants, and we'll see what they're looking for, okay? Is that all right?
yep.
Is there anything else?
No, that's all.
And do you have an update on the family question about the shared service yet? They respond back?
Yeah, they responded that they're talking about it.
Well, just so the council knows that I'm meeting with the mayor of Fanwood. We'll be discussing the established shared service we have between our communities. And that meeting will be held this Thursday, so hopefully we can discuss the overall contract and no, but the mayor called and she wanted to meet, just mayor to mayor, to discuss what's going on, so, thank you. Okay, any unfinished business for the council this evening? Any new business? I have a couple items. For those who are not aware, the last planning board meeting the board unanimously approved the use variance to change the site of the Burger King to Wendy's. Wendy's will seek all the required permits for the project and will be completed approximately mid-August 2018. And other business at that meeting, the planning board reviewed ordinance 17-30 and resolution 18-075 regarding the South Avenue 2 redevelopment plan for comments. The board supported this adoption with no additional comments on the matter. I am in receipt of a letter from the acting commissioner of the New Jersey DOT informing us that Garwood has been selected to receive funding from NJDOT fiscal year 2018 municipal program for various streets in the amount of $216,000. Also, I'm in receipt of a letter on behalf of the Union County Board of Freeholders and through the Open Space Recreation and Historical Preservation Trust Fund, a municipality we awarded a playground grant under Leveling the Playing Field grant program in the amount of $25,470. That's all I have for this evening. We'll be moving on to comments and matters of discussion for members of the council. Council President Lewinstein.
No report, Mayor, but I would just like to say that it's great news about the leveling the playing field grant from the county. We got what we asked for, and it will certainly help go a long way in Hartman Park, so,
And well, Sarah, thank you, and the committee also deserves credit for that.
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ariana.
You're welcome.
Okay. Councilwoman Kukrow?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a few things here. The Laws and License Committee has been very busy trying to get some of these updated and new ordinances before the council. Some have been before us for 2 years. The updated fence ordinance has been finalized with the attorney, and we'd like this to be moved forward today and hope for unanimous approval. It then has to go before the planning board and then back to us. We hope to repeal this onerous revision that was done 3 years ago to the dismay of many corner property owners. The raffle ordinance will eliminate the raffle approval from coming before council. We unanimously agreed this would reduce the amount of paperwork the administration does, therefore saving money for the taxpayers. Less government, more efficient. Surrounding towns also agree, as they have changed it years ago. We have the power to eliminate this. The property maintenance appeals we also discussed. The previous Construction Board of Appeals was abolished a few years ago. As such, at this time, there have been no such cases that required an appeals process in over 20 years. I know Mr. Renaud placed this Board of Appeals back into the property maintenance code. After much discussion and a unanimous decision on our committee, decided there is no need for another layer of government. Our option, if approved, can delegate the mayor and council to hear any such appeals. Also, the abandoned property fees. We are proposing an amendment to modify the code of ordinance number 15-22, established in 2015 for the upkeep, care, and security of the exterior of vacant or abandoned properties. Although this ordinance is already in place, all surrounding towns charge a fee for these homes to be registered. It's a good way to keep an eye on them, make sure the banks are held liable for their upkeep, and these fees will assure this will happen. It will be $500 to register for the first year. The fee on the anniversary will be $1,500, and the fee for a second annual renewal will be $3,000. The fee for any subsequent renewal past the second year will be $5,000. This will encourage the banks or owners of abandoned or vacant properties to move in a reasonable manner to alleviate this concern for their neighbors and for the town. And Mr. Renaud, I know that you had some thoughts on a few of these, so if you want to share them, that would be wonderful.
The fence ordinance, no, I prepared it as the committee wished. I don't have any opinion on that.
Okay.
The raffle ordinance, we can do that. I did research it. A couple of towns have done that. A few years ago, the Department of Law and Public Safety adopted different regulations that allow the governing body to designate an appointing authority other than itself for legalized games of chance. So you can appoint borough clerk, which is fine. I can do that ordinance. On the appeals, I just wanted to make a small correction. I didn't put in the same Board of Appeals that we abolished. And that Board of Appeals, in fact, was abolished at my recommendation. What I did was to implement the property maintenance ordinance that I got, which had a Board of Appeals, so we needed to adopt an ordinance with a Board of Appeals. But I'm fine with the mayor and council doing the appeals. I actually agree that when I did the ordinance to create the Board of Appeals, candidly, I really didn't envision that there ever would be any appeals. So I'm fine with not having a board, and we can have the mayor and council do it. Just based on the experience we had with the construction Board of Appeals, we never did appeals for 20 years.
20 years.
So we abolished that, so that's fine. And the fees for abandoned properties, you're gonna have to give me whatever it is that you're referring to, and I'll take a look at that. That's a little more complicated, and this is the.
Yeah, it's just going to be one adjustment on the actual ordinance itself. I think we're adding J. That was
Okay,
it. That was
so
it.
what I want you to do, if you would, is just send me, if you
Springfield
wouldn't
has it.
mind, whatever,
Springfield, from Springfield.
okay, whatever it is that you have, I don't have it.
Okay, I'll
Okay.
give it to you.
Okay.
You're going to take care of it? Tina?
Yes.
I just have a question about the fence ordinance. So I may have overlooked it in the agenda, but I don't recall. I know that this was brought up at some point several months ago, and
And last year.
I can't recall exactly what came of it, but I do, recall that the planning board did recommend against it, and that's all I recall. So I guess my, I certainly want to be respectful of the committee and the fact that they've made this proposal, but I want more time to consider it, because I want to know, I guess, from the committee why they're recommending this, as well as go back to the planning board and remind myself what was the rationale of the planning board before I make a decision on this. So would it be okay if we table this until the next meeting for me to have that kind of clarity on making a vote on this? That's what I would propose.
Well, we tabled this at the end of last year, and we're just bringing it forward again this year. It was
I know, it's
tabled
just for me, it's like so far removed from when I actually recall us discussing it, so, I just don't feel prepared to vote one way or the other right now, and I wanna be able to adequately, defend why I'm voting the way I'm voting before I vote on this, so that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Is this ordinance different in any way from what we had spoken about months ago?
Was it the same as the one we tabled at the end of last year, Bob? There was a mild adjustment.
I don't remember what it was that we tabled. The differences between the ordinance, the way that it reads now, and the ordinance, the way that it's proposed, pertains primarily to the type of fence that's permitted on a corner lot and the height of the fence. So it's the 6 foot as opposed to 4 foot, and the open fence, which is what's in the ordinance, as opposed to a solid fence, like a stockade or board on board, or whatever it is, whatever that may be. I'm not gonna take a position on whether the ordinance should be introduced or tabled, but I will tell you that the referral to the planning board is mandatory between the introduction and the second reading, so regardless of how you vote on introduction, you will get something presumably from the planning board before the public hearing.
Can it be sent to the planning board before that?
It can, we have done that.
So could we
So
send
why don't
it
we
to
do
them
that?
before we intro it? Because I also would like to, myself, take a look at the difference then between the two, so I would need a little more time on that as well. But if you'd like to go ahead and send it to them, I mean, that's fine as well.
What does the rest of your committee say?
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I
Councilman?
mean, it's not going to change in 2 weeks, 2 weeks is not the end of the world, so.
Well, then we can have the planning board out of the way. Councilman, would it?
Excuse me for being late, but I missed part of the conversation. But I don't feel why we should be punishing people that own the corner property for having a fence in an envelope of their backyard. So I don't even know why this has gone to this far through all the years of litigation, I guess I should say. I don't know why we're punishing people with corner properties. If it is in the envelope of their backyard, why shouldn't they have privacy for their tax dollars and what they want to do in their backyard?
Well, I agree.
I guess that's my argument for this ordinance.
That's why we were unanimous.
And I appreciate that, that's why I wanted to hear that, but at the same time, I also value what the planning board has to say as to the rationale for last time recommending keeping it, and if there's been changes to this current ordinance, I want to hear their feedback before I'm able to decide how I'm gonna vote.
So Councilman, I bring this back to we're here tonight to discuss this because of what the planning board has put forward in the past. Obviously, I'm not happy with this, and I'm sure other residents in the town are not happy with what we're discussing tonight. So we're here tonight to discuss that. As a corner property owner myself, I don't feel that I should not have the right to have a 6-foot fence in the envelope of my backyard. So I speak not just for myself, but for the other taxpayers in the town. So that's why we're here tonight. And kind of like, if we have to put this towards the planning board, and that's the process, okay, but we're here to fight or to discuss what the planning board has done in the past. Thank you.
I think just to clarify, the ordinance would be something that the council has passed in past years. It's not something the planning board would pass, but, I appreciate your strong opinion on the matter.
Thank you.
Certainly. I just don't think 2 weeks hurt, so I'm okay with that.
Mr. Knott, if they want to send it back to the planning board, do we table it? Do we just send it back there, or what's the process?
Well, let's see, we have an ordinance on the agenda, so
That's correct.
when you get to the agenda, we could do a number of things with it. First of all, if nobody moves it, then it wouldn't move. So that's one way of dealing with it. If somebody wants to move to table it, they can move to table it. until after the planning board recommendation, so that's another possibility. Or, I guess prior to that time, since it is the workshop, you could vote to remove it from the agenda. Any of those items, if you wanted to wait until after you refer it to the planning board, would be okay.
I mean, I'm not in favor of tabling it again, and I'm assuming that the planning board will come back with the same synopsis. So, I mean,
So do you want to remove it from the agenda at this point in
I,
time?
I don't want to remove it from the agenda either.
What, I'm gonna say I would, my vote is either to remove it or table it at this point, so I'm okay with either one, but I would like to
Council?
have some more time with this.
Right.
Does our planning board liaison have an opinion?
Look, I'll just take it from a council perspective. If there's members of the council that want a few more weeks to discuss it or go into it a little further, I would just hope that the favor would be returned down the road. I'm okay with that.
Okay.
It's fine.
So we're going to table it? Okay. I think we have a consensus of table.
All right, so somebody will move the table with them when it comes up.
So Councilman Krukow will review that?
We'll table it, we'll go to the planning board.
Thank you. Okay. Anything else?
That's it for me.
Thank you.
Mayor, to follow up on Councilwoman Kukorow's report, she did bring up 3 other ordinance changes. I don't. Councilwoman Kukorow, at least I'm not saying Eileen, right? So she brought up 3 other ordinances there, and has the council received copies of those? The rest of council? I know our committee has seen them.
I don't believe
They
we
haven't
have.
been prepared yet, so
Okay.
council did not see them.
Okay,
They only
Right,
have to log
Mr.
the
Bernard has to
license.
work on it.
okay,
You make a recommendation to prepare an ordinance, whether or not you choose to do that. She might say that she wants, your committee wants to put in the registration fee, so then he'll create an ordinance, then it will go to full council.
okay. I just want to make sure that the council is okay with that, because I don't think we got their consent.
Yeah,
So
by
we
the
need
time
to have that.
I spoke to Tina, it was too late to get everything prepared for council.
No problem, but I'm just saying, we didn't get the rest of the council's consent as to what to do, what direction to take, so I just want to make sure that the other 3 members of the council are
Once
okay
the
with that.
ordinance is prepared, it comes to me, it goes to you guys before I put it on the agenda, then you can discuss it like this and say, tell me to put it on or not put it on.
Okay.
Right,
Thank
But he
you.
has to make.
just making sure the council's not opposed, so we don't go through the trouble of preparing ordinances just to turn them down. That's my point, really.
Is anybody opposed?
So that was the only issue that I wanted to bring to the fence work, because everything else,
Everything else was okay?
okay with.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
That's direction to move forward, right?
Yeah, we can move forward on
Okay.
that.
Councilman Lazaro?
Nothing from me, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman McCormick?
So, what are we on now?
We're on the workshop.
No, I have nothing. No, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Sarno?
Yes, Mayor.
Thank you.
What I want to bring up today is we received correspondence from the Borough of Roselle Park. They're currently seeking a new superintendent of public works. As part of that process, their governing body is hoping to discuss a potential shared service opportunity with other members of Union County. I think that this is something we should vet out and see how it compares with our current shared service agreement with Fanwood, and with the permission of council, and to make sure that our taxpayers know that we're trying to vet out the best possible deal. I believe that we should move forward and at least sit down at the table and see what they're trying to offer.
I just have a question, because I received that same letter, or email from Roselle Park's clerk, but the way it sounded to me was that they did not have a superintendent right now, or they won't have one soon, therefore they would like to share with another town that has a full-time superintendent, which we do not. So what would we have to offer them? Or am I misreading
I
it? Do
thought
they
it-
have a full-time superintendent that
they-
they're looking to share? Or are
That
they
was the way I
seeking a
read
new full-time,
They
or,
weren't looking to us for what they
Superintendent.
were, right, they weren't looking to us to supply that. They just said they didn't have one at the current time.
To me, it sounded like they were looking for a town to share a superintendent that they already had. So
Right now, they actually have an ad with the League of Municipalities to look for a superintendent. So based on
That observation.
Then we'll-
Oh.
I'll just go.
Oh, okay. My understanding from this whole situation, reaching out to the clerk, they're gonna have their own, eventually, in the short term.
Roselle Park will have their own full-time
Yes.
superintendent?
Yes. So what I'm asking is, do we have at least permission to sit down at the table
Well,
to discuss it?
First,
Councilman, I think at the last meeting, we had said that if somebody wanted to look into something on their own, they could have, so if you make a phone call, that's what we had decided.
Charles, what do you?
and also, we have to realize if we do start discussing Roselle Park, we have to include Fanwood. I mean, we have a contract right now until the end of July, August 1st.
I understand that, and one of the great things that shared service agreements that, especially one we signed, is each one of them has an exit plan. That's something that is touted around the state, it's in order to make it flexible and make it work. So I don't think that Finn would be, I don't think, they shouldn't be upset that we're looking out there. And I don't think Mayor Moore would be upset that we're going out and reaching out to other towns. I think she's gonna understand, and the rest of her council members, that we're trying to do what's best for our town. We're announcing it here at a public meeting, what we're trying to do. I don't think it's
Did you speak
unreasonable.
to anybody at Roselle Park?
Just a question.
Did you find out any details?
Can I suggest that you can, I'm not suggesting that you do this, but I just wanted to remind everybody that contract negotiations are a matter which can be a subject of closed session discussions, and that at some point, talking too openly about what you want to do and how to do it with different counterparts in public is probably counterproductive.
I'll just continue the conversation with the councilman that I had spoke prior to having him join us, that this Thursday I'm meeting Mayor Moore, about our shared service contract, and I'll bring that topic up.
All right, in the meantime, are you opposed, or is anyone opposed?
I'm not opposed shopping around it, the contract doesn't expire until August, so I don't see any
I
harm.
became shared service, a person that shared service of us, to that, I just don't understand.
Well,
I can't hear you,
we
Mayor.
would be sharing our superintendent, that's, we are using them for Fanwood, so that, it would be a whole different scenario.
So,
Can I ask, prior to having an agreement with Fanwood, what knowledge do we have as Garwood of having a shared service with anybody else? Why would we oppose not having outcoming or a discussion with another borough? I don't understand why we're at this point where we are today.
Frankly, I don't think we're opposed to that. And also, frankly, I don't think anyone was sitting up here saying, we're concerned about Fanwood being upset. It's always been Garwood first. But, the councilman we received the same letter about what Roselle Park has going on. Councilman Sarno clearly reached out to the clerk about this. I mean, I'd be curious, what's their advertisement say? What's the salary they're looking to offer? What day is this person starting? Well, and let's see what happens in 2 weeks from now. If that conversation continues, let's see what they bring forward.
and also too, if we go into a contract with them for any duration, then they're just gonna dump the contract because they have a full-time superintendent. This doesn't add up.
I do believe, though, I agree with Mr. Renaud, if we want to discuss this further in any kind of strategy, it should be executive session. But I just want to make the record clear that I don't think anyone up here is opposed to it. We left last meeting saying any council member can seek this on their own, and that's obviously been done, so let's see where this takes us.
All right,
Yes.
you okay with me reaching out to them? Mayor, what do you think of that? Is that okay?
It's okay, if the council agrees, it's fine with me.
Okay.
You can reach out, that's fine.
I will talk to the clerk, probably be in touch with one of the members of the council over there, and if this thing gets some legs, we'll have to go and discuss it amongst contract negotiations and closed session, and we'll determine it there. If Fanwood's better, Fanwood's better. If it's not, well, we have a good decision to make,
Well,
right?
that's all we're looking to do, just to see if there's a better deal around
That's all I have.
Fort Lauderdale.
Okay, thank you.
That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Tedesco?
Thank you, Mayor. 2 items tonight. Let's start with the smaller one. So Hartman Park, we did receive a letter from the Board of Education saying that they are not legally allowed to contribute to the project cost And so I just wanted to follow up with that. I think that on behalf of the council, if we could direct the clerk to send the Board of Education a thank you for their consideration type of letter. That relationship between the council and the Board of Education is really important, so I think responding to their correspondence would be important. And also, fortunately, from the news from Union County, it looks like at least half, if not more than half of this project will be covered in Union County grants, which is wonderful, getting some of those tax dollars working for the people of Garwood. Second item I have is the volunteer reward card program, which I've been updating the council on from time to time as I have news. I'm very excited to announce that the proof for the volunteer rewards card has been approved by the participating businesses and will be printed by next week. We ended up getting 12 businesses to participate, which is really terrific for a new program like this one is. We're still on schedule to distribute the cards to the volunteers next month, and cards will be valid from that month, April of 2018, through December of 2019. And I would like to recognize and thank each of the 12 businesses for their participation. We have a tremendous variety among the local businesses, and many of them expressed how appreciative they were of this opportunity to give back to the town they love as well. So here goes. Benvenuti Pizza and Italian Deli / Restaurant, Cranford Plumbing, Heating and Cooling, Crunch Fitness, Daisy's Taste of Cuba, Dietrich's Wines and Liquors, Dr. Robert B. Wise, Karma Salon Studio, Kessler's Corner, Mobile Concepts, Rudy's Italian Restaurant, Sana Acupuncture, and the Station Bar and Grill. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. We'll move on to public comment. Anyone in the audience who wishes to address the mayor and council, please step to the microphone, state your full name and address. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Bill Nearstead, 320 Hickory Avenue. I'm here really for one reason, but two things confuse me. First off, if as far as the fence ordinance, I'm not going to comment on it because I'll be voting on it at the planning board, except to say if the council is just interested in having it, as Councilman McCormick stated, allowed in the envelope of the backyard, the code already permits that. So it already permits you to have a fence, 6-foot fence, in the envelope of your backyard. So I do encourage everyone to read it because there's clearly some, what's the right word, clarity that needs to be put out there as far as what the ordinance says, because it already permits you to have a 6-foot fence in the envelope of your backyard. Second, Mr. Renard, if I understood, or Mr. Mayor, do we have a first reading of ordinances without the ordinances being out here?
Yes, we've never had.
So the public won't be able to see it until the actual date of the public hearing?
No, it's public anytime after it's introduced.
But it's not here yet for the public to see it. That's okay? I just want to make sure I'm saying that's okay? Even on first reading?
Legally?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
It's, yeah.
Because we're sitting there in the audience listening to ordinances that no one has prepared, no one has seen, and yet you're going to vote on it at the next public meeting, and it's like, just kind of, I'm wondering about that. The reason I'm here, okay, is because of events this past weekend. I'm sure that some of us participated in walks regarding gun control, and obviously we all know about what happened in Parkland, Florida. 5 years ago, almost to the day, because I must have introduced this in March, because I put forth the gun control ordinance that was actually tabled on April 23rd, 2013 by a previous council. And at that time, the only council member who supported me was ex-councilman Petrozelli. I'm hoping we have a more enlightened council today. And I'm hoping that this council will support a gun control resolution recommending that the state and federal governments act on gun control. I would like very much to be able to take this resolution that I had proposed as a councilman, to update it to include, unfortunately, be a whole other paragraph of shootings and killings that have occurred of students since the council did not recommend this ordinance back 5 years ago. I would hope that a council member, any council member, would please take this and consider it and, move it forward through the committee or however you wish. I think time is of the essence. I'll leave council members, to your discretion, obviously, as far as if you want to introduce it, if you don't, or if there's a procedure you want to take to get it through. But, I had introduced this 5 years ago because Maria's niece lives in Newtown, Connecticut, and we all know what happened there. And I really thought that something would happen then, and it hasn't. And I would hope that, as I said, have a more enlightened council than we did 5 years ago, and that some type of gun control can indeed pass. So with your consent or approval, but I will update this to unfortunately include more murders and pass it on to the clerk, and hopefully a council member will take it up and move it forward.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, before you leave the podium,
Sure.
can I ask, going back to the fence ordinance?
Sure.
Can I ask why you somewhat are opposed to our fence ordinance and what I didn't know of past not being on council? You said something about a 6-foot fence and naming me and it's in an envelope. Can I ask why? Is there something other I should be looking for?
You had said that fences, that you believe fences should be permitted in back road envelopes.
Correct.
And what I'm saying is they already are.
So what happened past why this ordinance is to where it is today? What is your intake?
I don't know,
outtake
the ordinance
on that?
already allows it in the envelope, so I'm not really sure, because I haven't seen it, so I don't know what it says. I just wanted to make sure the council recognized, you already permitted.
What envelope are you talking about?
Front yard, side yard, rear yard envelope.
What, meaning what?
Meaning that the code already permits it in the back, in the rear yard envelope. But I will wait until we see the ordinance before we comment, because I don't want to speak about the
But
planning board.
is that fair for you to wait and versus what we're putting forward? Is that fair for you to put forward to this council and to the public?
I'll wait until the planning board gets it, so I can actually read it.
Councilman, we're going to table the ordinance, and it's going to go to the planning board. So.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm principally here for the gun control, yes.
And maybe we can just talk about it another time, but I'm hearing envelope, and I'm not sure
Yeah,
what that means.
I'll wait.
Should we wait until the planning board
Yeah, we'll
gets
wait.
back to us? Okay.
But as I said, I'm just here basically for the gun control. I hope the council member would take that forward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate your influence. Sir?
Good evening. My name is Greg Ruggiero. I live at 420 Pine Avenue in Garwood, and I have 4 kids in Garwood Public School. Every morning while we walk to school, Bill passes by on his bike, gives me little updates, and he had mentioned that this evening he'd be mentioning gun control. And I feel it's my civic obligation to support any and all efforts in that direction. Having 4 kids in the school and seeing what the news is today, it's all of our ethical and moral obligation to protect them and each other, the community. And only good things can result from having less violence, and curbing guns is the way to do it, and we should all support this.
Thank you very much for your input. Have a good night.
Hi, I'm John Bartlett, 231 Hemlock Avenue. I'm so appreciative of Councilman Lazaro asking some questions about the ordinance earlier, because that's actually what I wanted to come and speak about tonight. I know a few years back there was a concerted effort to try to move more discussion to committee, because there were some benefits to having some of these discussions outside the passion of the public eye, and where there were some grandstanding and some other things going on. But I think we're probably overusing that approach a little too much. I understand the value of the council committees. I appreciate the endless hours that go on outside of these meetings to work through the myriad of details and come up with the other legwork that needs to be done to present information here. But those committees are not supposed to be a substitute for good public discourse, and I don't think it's good governance when I hear, just as a preface, I know I don't come to a lot of these meetings, but I watch pretty much all of them on the video, so I'm very appreciative of the people who take part in this. I know a little bit what I'm talking about, and this overused term, we discussed this in the committee, is, I'm not sure what that term means, because quite frankly, you really need to understand what it is you're voting on. And so I have 2 practical concerns regarding this reliance on committee reports. The first is the obvious. These committees are not conducted under the auspices of the Open Public Meeting Law. So we don't know what's being said or who's taking what position, what in some cases even the pros and cons are. We hear it's a 2-to-1 vote, the committee recommends it. That's great, but what were some of the thoughts against it? I would think this is the place for public discourse. The other practical consideration is when a recommendation comes forward, I live in the business world, I don't live in government, but I can tell you, if you bring a presentation forward and you don't outline some of the alternatives and why those were rejected, you don't bring the details along to support the recommendation, and you don't anticipate the questions or the objections that undoubtedly in an adversarial environment are going to come up, I don't have a lot of sympathy when the discussion degrades into a partisan or an unpleasant situation. So I do think that you owe it to the community and to yourselves to bring some of these discussions out of committees and have them here. And I'll just cite a very practical example. When we were having this discussion regarding the shared services agreement with Fenwick, I never once heard the annualized value of the contract, or the total 3-year value of the contract. That's a basic data point. And to me, when it comes to, do we want to take a contract out to bid or not, that's one of the metrics I would use to decide whether or not it's worth the effort to go out and find competitive opportunities. It may well be that the competitive benefit, as it was alluded to, may be so small and may overwhelm the operational benefit of staying with what you've got already. But that wasn't the discussion. The discussion was, why didn't you raise something earlier? Who's going to do the work? I just think we've degraded into an unhealthy situation with the reliance on our committees. And all I hope to do tonight, and the reason why I wanted to bring this up in the workshop, and again, I'm so appreciative that the councilman asked for the data before considering a position, is that I plant the seed, and as you go forward, and we continue to rely on the committees to do the legwork, that we recognize that this is also the place where the summarization of that legwork, the good two-way debate, and an informed decision process that really can be made. So if nothing else, if you hear my little voice in the back of your head the next time you say, we already discussed that in the committee, or we should do it because it's what the committee recommends, you can hear me in the background saying, maybe you want to talk about it a little bit more. All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Bartlett. Anyone else?
Good evening, Mayor and gentlemen of the council. This is Patterson, 325 Grove Avenue. Just a couple items. You're going to be meeting with Mayor Moore.
That's correct.
Which is great on the shared services. Just if anybody could come up with maybe a laundry list of questions to ask. I don't know.
I think the first question we're going to establish is talk in front of the council, do we want to continue the agreement? Of course, I mentioned many times before, I'm in favor of continuing that. And also, as the Council President Blumenstock indicated, there are some other things they've been talking about in a positive vein.
All right. Well, outside of positive, negative, right? Whatever issues,
contract.
Whatever issues come up, you can talk to it.
Well,
One of the issues I kept bringing up was they have a shared service now with a third county.
Yes.
Yeah, how does that really impact ours? But the issue I had with that one is that Scotch Plains now goes over to Fanwood to cut their grass in the parks. So, that was a strange setup that somehow we don't have. So, but anyway, I appreciate your discussion on it.
Thank you,
Mayor Marsh. She's a very lovely lady. And a
Thank you.
good mayor.
I don't care if I thank you.
Yes, tell him Bruce says hello.
Oh gosh, I'm not going to say that.
But anyway, I know back in February, Councilman Lazaro was good enough to give us a little layout of the park, right? I'm just wondering, the Garwood Historical Committee is talking about a possibility of a time capsule. This was brought up once before. I'm just wondering, where is that rock going to be located? You know I'm talking about the big rock.
So I don't think it would be moved per se, but I can definitely find out from you and get back to you. I mean, because the contract has just recently been sent out to MRC, so and then I'm going to be able to announce a more definitive timeline probably at the next council meeting. So in that time period, I can ask where that rock will be moved. Is it so? Could you give me a little bit more
Well, right now, I guess you know where the rock is, it just
Just
says.
to give you a little bit more information on what your intentions are for the time capsule and what you would need.
I can do that.
Or email, that'd be great, thank you.
All right. See, in fact, this layout, I guess, you're taking away half of the asphalt basketball court, right?
Of one of the basketball courts.
Yeah, I guess it's the west side of the basketball court you must be removing.
I'm horrible with orientation.
Oh, the east side is this way, towards the first aid squad, the west is towards the point.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
All right, and that's basically the west side of the asphalt, plus whatever is there existing, you know, where the equipment is now, that's gonna be where this layout is.
Correct.
Okay, and because the rock is like kind of in the middle of that area, so I would assume it's gonna be rolled away somewhere or picked up. All right, but I'll
Just email me and then
I'll send you the.
I can talk to you about that.
The fence ordinance, I'll tell you, there's a lot of talk on this, you know, both last year and this year. I know the taxpayers were sued because of whatever fence ordinance is in place. It was like over $4,000. And of course, as a taxpayer, I'm kind of upset to a good degree because something was wrong with that fence ordinance. So it appears that we are trying to correct whatever the issues are that created this lawsuit. Is that the reason of this fence ordinance?
No,
Basically.
no, it has nothing to do with it.
That lawsuit has nothing to do with the fence ordinance.
Mr. Patterson,
Oh.
to the mayor, please.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'll talk to Bill afterward.
That'd be a great idea.
Anyway, but I mean, if there are issues with fence ordinance, then yes, let's clear them up.
Okay. You gonna summarize that?
Yeah, Roselle Park, and the only person actually sitting here back where Petracci was mayor, I guess, is Councilwoman Tedesco. So they were actually discussing a shared service with Roselle Park, right, back then?
They were, but nothing came of it.
Oh, okay, well, obviously our name and their name is still possibly linked, so I wish you luck on that. And just a suggestion, I assume the shared service right now is a 3-year, is that 3-year?
That's correct.
Yeah. Councilwoman Tedesco was talking about how, you know, we'd be jumping from town to town possibly, and it create some kind of bad taste in town. So you make it 5 years, and, you know, maybe that with whatever escalation clause. That's just a suggestion. And then lastly, there was talk on the Board of Appeals. Could somebody just give me an idea of what this Board of Appeals was about back in the old days?
Well, Mr. Renaud, if you want to, or?
You want me to do that, Mayor?
Please, sir.
The Construction Board of Appeals, everybody who is, for example, denied a construction permit has the right to appeal. Municipalities have an option of having a local construction code board of appeals, or if they don't have a local construction code board of appeals, then Board of Appeals go to the county construction code board of appeals. That's what the Board of Appeals was. So Garwood had, for a number of years, a Board of Appeals. Nobody ever appealed. So after, as I said, 20 years or so, we abolished the board and said, if an appeal ever comes up, then somebody can go and appeal to the county board because they're paying for the board, and you know, it's just a matter. Besides that, you had to have certain qualifications, so you had to find an architect and an engineer and, you know, and so forth to be on the board besides. You know. Anyway, so that, it just was non-functional, didn't do anything, and so we got rid of it.
All right. You mentioned the mayor and council are involved now with it, or?
No, but now the mayor and council on the property maintenance code that's proposed will be, that also has a board of appeals.
A separate board.
A separate board of appeals. But we don't have any boards of appeals, so we're going to create a board of appeals, but decided not to, pretty much for the same reason, except now there's nowhere to go. Because the County Construction Board of Appeals doesn't hear property maintenance board of appeals, it only hears construction code of appeals. So we decided, the committee decided that rather than create a separate Board of Appeals for construction or property maintenance appeals, that we would just have the appeals go to the mayor and council.
Okay, yeah, I was confused, I didn't realize two Board of Appeals, it was two different directions, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lamb.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask Mr. Earl, can you explain to Bruce Patterson what the difference in the two fence ordinances were? The previous one and this one that we put forth?
Yes, the two differences are, under the old ordinance, under the existing ordinance, only a 4-foot fence was permitted on a corner lot. And the fence had to be open, which I think is defined as more than half open, I don't recall exactly, but it has to be an open fence, like a picket fence, for example, as opposed to a stockade fence. Or chain link fence. Those are the differences that occur to me.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Councilman Sarno, Councilman McCormick. This is Councilman Cooker here. You were late, but they picked May 15th for students in government.
Thank you, Ms.
Both
Ariel.
days were fine for me. But thank you for pointing that out.
Students in government, it's a
I'll add
night
to my
that the kids come and take over the world.
Thank you.
That's a Tuesday, correct?
It's there.
Yeah, you know what?
I'm very observant.
My staff sets up and they don't know that you guys have switched, and I keep forgetting to come from.
And I never even noticed that.
Okay, is there anyone who'd like to approach the microphone? At this time, seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. That's the end of the meeting.
Council, as we want to move forward? Okay. All rise for a moment of silence and salute to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Notice of the meeting was provided to the Westfield Leader, advertised on January 4th, 2018. Notification was sent to the Star Ledger. Promptly posted on the municipal public bulletin board and filed in the office of the municipal clerk, informing the public of the time and place according to the provisions of the Open Public Meeting Law, Chapter 231, TL 1975. Shall we have a roll call?
Mayor Lombardo.
Here.
Councilman Kukrow.
Here.
Councilman Lazaro.
Here.
Councilman McCormick.
Here.
Councilman Sarno.
Here.
Councilman Disco. Here. Council President Blumenstock. Here.
Sarah, have a minute, please.
Special budget meeting of the mayor and council held on March 6, 2018. Regular workshop and executive session minutes of the mayor and council held on March 13, 2018.
Do I have a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Sarah, Communications.
New Jersey State League of Municipalities, Mayor's Advisory.
Receive and file.
Union County Board of Chosen Freeholders Ordinance.
Receive and file.
Florida Valley Sewage Authority minutes.
Receive and file.
And Broward Recreation Commission minutes.
Receive and file. Move on to ordinance introduction. Ms. Ariema, please read ordinance 18-05 by title only.
Yes, Mayor. An ordinance to provide for a revised rate schedule for 2018 pursuant to 134-16 rate schedule in Article 5 in industrial waste and fees in Chapter 134 sewers of the Code of the Borough of Norwich, the industrial user charge provided in 134-15.
Do I have a motion to introduce ordinance 18-04?
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
I'll second.
Roll call, Ms. Ariema.
Councilman Kukrow.
Yes.
Councilman Lazaro.
Aye.
Councilman McCormick.
Aye.
Councilman Sarno.
Aye.
Councilwoman Disco. Aye. Council President Blumenstock.
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Ariema, read ordinance 18-05 by title only.
Yes, Mayor, except for I don't know what that numeral is. Does anybody know?
What'd you say?
14?
Mhm.
14, thank you. In order to amend Article 14, affordable housing in Chapter 106 land use of the Code of the Borough of Norwich to further address the requirements of the Fair Housing Act and the Uniform Housing Affordability Controls, UHAC, regarding compliance with the borough's affordable housing obligations.
Do I have a motion to introduce ordinance 18-05?
So moved.
Second?
Roll call, Ms. Ariema.
Councilman Kukrow.
No.
Councilman Lazaro.
Aye.
Councilman McCormick.
No.
Councilman Sarno.
Aye.
Councilwoman Tedisco.
Aye.
Council President Blumenstock.
Aye.
Ms. Ariemo, read ordinance 18-06 by title only.
Yes, Mayor. Ordinance of the Borough of Garwood in the County of Union, New Jersey, authorizing a special emergency appropriation in the amount of $140,000 for the preparation of an approved tax map and a program of revaluation of real property in, by, and for the Borough of Garwood.
Do I have a motion to introduce ordinance 18-06?
So moved.
Second?
Roll call, Ms. Ariemo.
Councilwoman Kukrow.
Yes.
Councilman Lazaro.
Aye.
Councilman McCormick.
Yes.
Councilman Sarno.
Aye.
Councilwoman Tedisco.
Aye.
Council President Blumenstock.
Aye.
Moving on. Ms. Ariemo, please read ordinance 18-07 by title only.
Yes, Mayor. Calendar year 2018 ordinance to establish a CAC bank.
Do I have a motion to introduce 18-07, please?
So moved.
Second?
Roll call, please, Ms. Ariemo.
Councilman Kukrow.
No.
Councilman Lazaro.
Aye.
Councilman McCormick.
No.
Councilman Sarno.
No.
Councilwoman Tedisco.
Aye.
Council President Blumenstock.
Aye.
Mayor Lombardo.
The mayor will vote yes. It's a positive tool to be used, and as we all know, we didn't use it last year, so. Okay, Ms. Ariemo, please read ordinance 18-08 by title only.
Yes, Mayor. An ordinance to amend subsection H in 106, 118 fences and walls in Article 8 zone regulations in Chapter 106 land use of the Code of the Borough of Garwood to amend restrictions on fences on corner lots.
Make a
So
motion
I
to
understand
table.
that the plan is for someone to move to table it and to refer the matter to the planning board.
Yes, so I'm moving to table.
I'll second that.
Ms. Ariemo, roll call, please.
Councilwoman Kukrow.
Yes.
Councilman Lazaro.
Aye.
Councilman McCormick.
Yes.
Councilman Sarno.
Aye.
Councilwoman Tedisco.
Aye.
And Council President Blumenstock.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Council Standing Committee reports and other reports. Police, Councilman Sarno.
Thank you. The Division of Highway Traffic Safety is asking all police agencies in the state to join them in the Distracted Driving 2018 statewide crackdown. This is part of a nationwide enforcement effort with the slogan, "You drive, you text, you pay." Purpose of the campaign is to undertake visible targeted enforcement during April, which is National Distracted Driving Month. Enforcement activities will focus on driver behaviors that distract from the task of driving, such as talking on a handheld cell phone or sending text messages. The campaign will run from April 1st through the 21st of next month. The Garwood Police Department will support the initiative with random enforcement patrols throughout the month. This is a reminder to put the phone down when operating the vehicle. Officer Moronsky is halfway through his training period and is progressing well. We expect him to be completed with his training by mid-spring. There's still space available for the inaugural Youth Academy. The academy is open to children entering 6th through 8th grade of the upcoming year, and applications are available at the police desk in headquarters and also online at www.garwoodpd.org. As the days get longer and the weather gets warmer, when you're on the roadway, please watch out for children playing. And this goes for every town when it comes down to the National Distracted Driving Month. All towns will be on highway. That's all for my report.
Thank you. Public Health, Councilman McCormick.
Thank you, Mayor. The last meeting was canceled due to a snowstorm. Rescheduled for April 18th. Thank you.
Very good. Streets and Roads Ecology Council President Blumenstock.
Thank you, Mayor. With another nor'easter last week, our DPW was busy once again. They de-iced all borough streets and parking lots before the storm, as well as all borough sidewalks and school crossings. They also plowed all borough streets, parking lots, and borough-owned sidewalks, and they kept plowing roads overnight to keep them clear for us. Public Works employees worked a total of 106 hours of time and a half during the March 21st to 22nd storm. And the DPW also continued to chip brush, place curbside along borough streets from the previous storm. That's all for my report, Mayor.
Thank you, Council President. Fire, Councilman McCormick.
No report, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Finance, Councilwoman Tedesco.
Thank you, Mayor. The Finance Committee unanimously supports the budget that is on tonight's agenda for introduction, and we hope the rest of the council will support it as well. That's all for my report, Mayor.
Thank you. Buildings and Grounds, Councilman Lazaro.
Thank you, Mayor. Pleased to report, as mentioned earlier by the mayor, that on March 9th, we received notice that Garwood received from the Union County Freeholders a Level the Playing Field grant in the amount of $25,470. This was a grant that we applied for back in November of 2017 to add this sensory tunnel project that is designed for special needs children. With this grant, along with our matching grant from the county in the amount of $55,000, the county grants will be covering $80,470 of the $131,127 total cost of the Hartman Park project. As a result, Garwood residents will only pay a little more than $50,000 for the entire project, which is less than half. This is a big win for all Garwood children and families and our taxpayers. Special thanks to Councilwoman Tedisco for encouraging our rotating visits to the freeholder meeting, which allowed me to lobby for Garwood when they voted on passing the level of the playing field grants. Also, thank you to our borough clerk for helping in preparing that, and for everyone who supported this initiative. A contract was sent to MRC today, and we will have a more definitive schedule for the completion of the park come next meeting. As far as the rec complex remediation, Padavani, the contractor for the project, is set to be awarded the contract for fixing the complex on April 10th. The council voted for the bond ordinance at our last meeting, and an award for a contract can't take place until a 20-day period has ended on the bond ordinance, which will be on April 3rd. Contract will go out to them for signature on April 11th, and once it's signed, they can resume the project. Falcon and Padavoni have been advised and will hopefully provide a work schedule as soon as possible. And that's all for my report.
Thank you, Councilman. Laws and license, Councilman Kukrow.
No report, Mayor. I did it already.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Recreation, Councilman Lazaro.
The Recreation Commission met last Monday. The summer recreation program is well on its way in its preparation, and Dana Parkhill has been asked to run the program again. Camp will be held at the Recreation Complex. There was 110 kids in last year's program, and Scott Kessler, Recreation Director, is expecting an increase for this year. The backup location is Hartman Park. If both the complex and Hartman Park are not ready by June 25th, which we hope will be, we assume will be, then summer rec will be held at Lincoln School. Suggestion of an 8-week program instead of a 6-week program is currently being considered. There would be a need for 20 counselors due to the potential increase of participants. The program would like to host 2 trips per week. Suggested trips include movies, bowling, pump it up, and mini golf. A discussion was had in regards to the Board of Ed charging the Rec Commission for use of their facilities, even though the Rec Commission has offered usage of their facilities free of charge. I intend to have a conversation about these fees with Dr. Quigley in the near future. Currently, the rec complex has an active list of groups who are scheduled in the use of the field. The commission also discussed if the bocce court might be replaced with a metal gazebo to promote more event usage. Bocce court, according to the rec commission, has been minimally used, and some argue that a gazebo would attract more residents to the park. This is something that we will certainly have a more lengthy conversation about. Finally, the commission has expressed a desire to purchase vending machines that would be housed inside the rec complex building once the rec complex is operational. The recreation director and commission would be responsible for the collection of money and refilling and stocking of the machines, and would set up a schedule to make sure it would be adequately completed. One other issue we did discuss is the idea of Chapter 126, which is the code that governs the Recreation Commission. This code may need some clarifications and amendments to make it clear what responsibilities fall to the commission and what falls on the borough in terms of expenditures, as there's currently a lot of gray area that has created some conflict. So this may be something that we might want to consider referring to laws and license in the future. Maybe I'll bring that up at the next workshop meeting for laws and license to take a look at Chapter 126. And that's all for my report.
Thank you, Councilman. Garwood Senior Citizens Liaison, Council President Blumenstock.
Thank you, Mayor. At our meeting on the 15th, we were treated with a guest from Barnabas Health Home Care and Hospice. They spoke to the group about advanced life planning options. They delivered an extensive presentation about the various documents you may like to have, such as a will, power of attorney, and then they really delved into 2 particular documents, the 5 wishes document and the post-medical order, or practitioner orders for life-sustaining treatment. The 5 wishes document is a more in-depth booklet about what wishes you would have if you could not speak for yourself, from practical matters, such as who would make the decisions for you, to more personal decisions, such as having music played or pictures nearby. And the PULSE form is more strictly medical and lets doctors or EMTs know precisely what measures you want taken and how far to go with medical interventions. I have both forms with me if anybody would like to take a look. And then, of course, we finished our club meeting with a few games of bingo. So our next meeting is April 5th. That's all for my report, Mayor.
Thank you, Council President. The library's mayor representative, Councilman Lazaro.
Thank you, Mayor. The Garwood Library's program for March and April include knitting club every Monday and Thursday at 10:30 a.m., Kids Chess Mondays in March and April at 3 p.m., book clubs Monday, March 26th at 1 p.m., Thursday, April 4th at 7 p.m., Design and STEM every Tuesday at 3 through March and April, Story Time every Wednesday at 10:30, Kids Craft Wednesday, March 28th at 3 p.m., Lego Thursday, April 12th and 26th at 3 p.m., Movie Time every Friday at 10 a.m., Pause to Read Saturday, April 14th at 10 a.m. In addition, John Barrett, a certified financial planner from AXA Advisors, will discuss recent tax reform changes, Social Security planning, and other financial topics on Monday, April 9th at 6:30 p.m. Local author Laura Sassi will visit Storytime on April 11th with her puppets and her new book, Diva Dolores and the Opera House Mouse. That is a rescheduled event that was snowed out on the 21st. And in honor of National Library Week, April 9th to April 14th, the Garwood Public Library is granting amnesty on fines. During this week, there will be no fines collected for any overdue items returned during this week, no matter how long the items are overdue. So check your shelves, see if you have any books that need to be returned. The Garwood Library, of course, is open Monday through Thursday from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m., Fridays from 9 a.m. to 4:30, and Saturdays from 9 to 1 p.m. The library will be closed Friday and Saturday, March 30th and 31st. That's all for my report.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman, do you have a...
How about back fines that I'm supposed to, how about the fines from last time they did it?
The fines.
Because I forgot to go in there and do it. I think I owed them like $2,000.
Really? Well, you better go April 9th to April 14th.
It's April 9th.
April, write it down.
I'm gonna write it
My
down.
book's back.
Well, my books are back.
Oh.
They're
She
back.
said pay the money.
Yeah, I didn't pay the money.
There goes our tax bill
It's just
again.
gonna show up. Be like,
They
hey.
made a lot of money on me, I'm telling you, for that one lousy book. It cost me about $200.
Okay, we'll continue on. Celebration of public events and holidays liaison, Councilwoman Kukrow.
I really have no report, Mayor, but I did go to the Easter egg hunt and I volunteered to drop the Easter eggs. I have to say, I'm very ashamed, but after 15 minutes, I dropped 25 eggs and I was freezing to death. So, but I saw the pictures, it looked wonderful, and I think how those kids withstood that cold, I have no idea, but it was a great event. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Union County Air Traffic Noise Advisory Board Representative, Councilman McCormick.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to back you up a little bit before you went to Councilwoman Kukrow. We were supposed to talk about the school board.
Oh, I
You
apologize.
passed that? That's okay, don't apologize. I would like to let everybody know that, yes, I attended the meeting. I happened to get there late due to my schedule. And I have to tell you that I am ashamed of our school board for having a type of sound system as standing in the back. Yes, I deal with heavy equipment all day and my sense of hearing may be difficult at times. But the microphone system at the Board of Education is absolutely horrible, if you don't mind me saying. I hope that somebody looks into that. So I really can't give a whole report on what happened at the school board, so that is probably my best comment, that I am very disappointed in all the fancy equipment that the school board has there. But if you stand in the back, if you're not good at lip reading, you can't get what's going on. So thank you for your time. Thank you.
You might want to talk to the school board.
I'm letting everybody know right now, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman, if you don't mind, I can add, I was in attendance that night and
So to finish my statement, if any other councilwoman or mayor that happened to be present there, maybe you can fill in the rest of the people. Thank you.
well, I certainly don't have a long report prepared or anything, but I do want to say the one huge takeaway I got as sitting in the audience, well, really two, I have to say. One was discussion of school safety, because it's obviously on the minds of many of the parents here, children at Lincoln School, but then also around the nation. Additionally, though, they discussed their budget, and right now we're looking at an $85 tax increase on the average home in Garwood for the Board of Ed portion of the budget, of the tax bill, so.
And I'd just like to add, being in the audience, that just on the safety aspect, that she did give kudos to our Chief Wright for always being there for answers in any difficult situations in the school. And she also mentioned that the nutritionist that we had here here of ShopRite. She was very complimentary to that situation. So,
Thank you for my colleagues for helping me out on my deafness.
thank you.
Teamwork.
Well, can I ask a question? Aren't those like brand new wireless, everybody's got one microphones? Because they're better than over here, I think.
No,
Aren't they?
I don't think so. Okay, we'll move on. Special Review Committee, Councilwoman Tedesco.
What about union?
Oh.
So sorry for interrupting you before, Mayor, but so air traffic and noise, I just signed up, I got approved to be on the board, so I haven't yet had a meeting yet. I wasn't advised to one of the next meetings, so I will let everybody know going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Special Review Committee, Councilwoman Tedesco.
Thank you, Mayor, I don't have a report.
Okay, thank you. Historical Committee, Councilwoman Tedesco.
This one I definitely do. All right, thanks again, Mayor. The Historical Committee met last night and held elections for officers. The new chair of the committee is Carol Lombardo. The new vice chair is Bruce Patterson. Secretary is Chelsea Brandt. She was welcomed last year as a new member and already is secretary. That's how we move in the Historical Committee sometimes. And now the treasurer is Adele Lewis. Bruce Patterson served as the chair of the Historical Committee for the last few years. To my knowledge, he has been in that position ever since I was appointed as the council liaison back in early 2015. And we thank him for all the time and energy he has devoted to the job. I'm sure Bruce will continue to do a lot for the committee, though. The committee is confident that Carol Lombardo will keep the group an active force in our community, as she has been a valuable member who served as both our secretary and our treasurer. Also, the committee wants to thank the Finance Committee for including a line item of $500 into this year's budget in recognition of its efforts and importance in our town. The inaugural edition of the Historical Committee newsletter has been distributed throughout the town, and extra copies are available in Borough Hall. In fact, I have them right here. I'll pass them along to Ms. Ariema this evening. We are excited to put out this biannual newsletter in the spirit of one of the committee's missions, which is to educate the public about our borough's rich history. Thank you to the volunteers on the committee who walk door to door delivering the newsletter, and to the Garwood Girl Scout troop for helping out as well. Additionally, the committee is continuing to plan for its booth at the upcoming Garwood Rock Street Fair in June, which includes writing 5 new articles and getting more pictures of these Garwood sites, so we can add to the 20 features that we had last year at the street fair. And that's all for my report, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Parking Committee, Councilman Sarno.
Thank you, Mayor. The Parking Committee convened this past Friday night with Police Chief James Wright, OEM Director Ken Capobianco, Mayor Lombardo, resident member Kathy Bellagio. The goals of the meeting were to discuss street parking during snowstorms and the future impact development will have on it, the progress and current state of our parking enforcement, and the status of marking out the latest parking enforcement zones. Regarding street parking in snowstorms, Chief Wright is investigating the possibility of utilizing alternate side parking, increasing the threshold to having cars off the street to 4 inches, and naming emergency streets. Each of these ideas are to help ease the burden on our residents when adhering to our current 3-inch snow rule. Our parking enforcement has been supplemented quite nicely with the addition of our parking enforcement officer, John Patterson. So far, he has embraced the community policing initiative being brought forth by our police chief, and is in the process of educating residents that permits are needed in certain areas, and then further explaining to get the permits when he has office hours, which are on Tuesday and Thursday from 3 to 6 p.m. In the upcoming weeks, the education period will end and enforcement will begin, ultimately resulting in summons for those found to be in violation of our parking rules. Lastly, the signs necessary to point out the expansion of our parking enforcement area still need to be marked out by our DPW, and then they'll need to be placed in the ground. There are 52 signs that need to be furnished, and we expect these signs to be in place by the end of the spring. Our next meeting is April 9th at 7:30 to further discuss our ideas. That's all for my report.
Thank you, Councilman.
Councilman, I'm sorry, can you just repeat that? I think you said, but I just didn't hear
Sure.
the enforcement date of the actual.
I don't have an exact date. There's no exact target date.
So right now it's just education.
Right. Right now, what's happening is our parking enforcement officer, what he's doing is going out there, finding the cars without the tags, knocking on the door. He has a pamphlet. Hey, you don't have a permit,
come see me from 3 to 6. That way you can get your permit. So it's a whole process of educating all the residents and finding out who it is. If it's a commuter, then we may want to offer the summons right away.
Has there been a discussion about when that anticipated starting of enforcement date would be and how?
I wouldn't call it a strong date, but it's something that we'll be discussing in the next meeting to see if we actually have a firm date. We may even throw out a nixle, if that was an idea, like here it comes.
Thank you.
Great.
Any other,
Yeah,
Yeah.
Councilman Jeff,
Sure.
I have a question. I thought I heard you say 4 inches versus 3 inches, is that
it's a
correct?
possibility. Again, this is just ideas that were being discussed.
Okay.
Because it would, you go to weather.com, right? A lot of things you see, it says 1 to 3, and then it starts at 4 to 7, 4 to 6, 4 to 8. So maybe we up it. But what's going to happen is our police chief's going to reach out to other towns and kind of get an idea of what's going on that way. And then bring back everything to the committee for us to decide.
Councilman,
Sure.
did you discuss at all, I know with the Casali lot now is going to start to get filled with equipment and whatnot. I know you see everybody online trying to give some ideas
Yeah.
of maybe other areas we could use it. Did you discuss at all any other areas that could become our sort of snow parking for those who don't have driveways?
There's things being discussed specifically with the chief. Once those details are out of his negotiation,
Right.
I'll be more prepared to
Okay.
discuss it. But yes, it was discussed. Charles will add to it.
And at this time, as of this morning, I tried to reach out to Mr. Minks, he was unavailable, matter of fact, he's going to the seminar all day tomorrow. I'm trying to pitch him at 8 o'clock. But basically, I want to talk about the fencing, parking availability, and the current time
Are
frame.
you talking, Mike? I'm sorry to interrupt you. Oh, sorry, it's hard to hear.
Thank you. And I also going to talk to him about giving us a current timetable for what's going to happen. Remediation, dismantling, and actual building. So hopefully the next day or two we'll have some solid information.
Okay, that would be good, because I also know some of the seniors, well, I talked with the chief about parking for next week's meeting, and we can use the lot. I'm wondering at what point,
Well,
so if
a
you
little bit
could.
of negativity if you park in that lot, you have to go all the way down to the pet shop and come back.
Yeah,
So
and
that's
that
one of my
was
first
some of the
questions I'm
problems
going to
that
ask him.
didn't want to walk
Put some
that way,
access in
talk to
there.
them.
Okay.
No problem. Anything else?
Okay. Okay. Office report, Ms. Ariano.
Chief of Police James H. Wright, monthly report for February 2018.
Do I have a motion to accept the officer's report?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on once again, is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address the mayor and council? Please step to the microphone. State your full name and address, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Seeing none?
Change my name to Dunn. Seeing none. Good evening, Mayor, ladies and gentlemen. Council, Bruce Patterson, 225 Willow Avenue. Question, yes, for Councilman Sarno and his parking committee. Wendy's, as it's now being formulated, I think there's like 36 spots there. I think. Is that right?
Roughly. You want me to answer? Yeah, roughly about that. It is more than what's required for that, but again, it's going to become a negotiation if that's where you're headed with this discussion.
Yeah.
With the specific franchise owner. Remember, when the planning board came here, as with Wendy's corporate, Wendy's franchise owners will be who you discuss any kind of future parking arrangements, should the town go down that road.
All right, well, I wish you luck in negotiations, but I guess there could be a possibility of 36 down to 0.
Well, the corporate individual did indicate that he would think that the franchisor would be more amenable to that.
Oh,
to
okay.
do that.
All
It
right.
was his opinion.
Yeah, okay, well, that's good. That's a revenue source for them, right? Along with the borough. Oh, Burger King didn't make any money on that deal? Yeah. Well, tell them that.
I'm not telling anything.
The RVSA, I don't know, is there like a meeting soon, right?
At the next meeting, they will be here.
Okay, so it's April.
April 10th, I believe.
Who's we will be here?
Pardon?
Who's we they will be here?
The Broadway Valley people will be here.
They're making a presentation, I
Yes.
understand.
Mhm.
You know, be like Greek, me and, yes.
The cast of characters, as they say.
To me, they're characters, yeah, I can't argue
Okay,
that.
Mr. Patterson, you just have to go a little light moment, that's it.
Oh, light moments. Anyway, let's go, yeah, let's talk about a light moment. That's really not light at all, but the freeholders, you know, I did go to the freeholders and I did thank them for the $25,000. So, I mean, that was on a high note. But in the meantime, back to this county manager issue where they're bringing a guy in that doesn't even live in the county according to the county bylaws, but they were able to bypass that with a resolution. You know, he doesn't have the experience yet, you know, they're agreeing that, you know, he's going to be the county manager. Another issue that came up recently is these guys play so fast and loose. You know, it makes you wonder, actually, are they a county government or not? You know, are they there just to self-serve themselves and who cares about the residents? But anyway, but another issue that came up, freeholder Hudak, he works for Kane College. Ed Oatman is the trustee for Kane College. To me, that's a conflict of interest because he oversees Kane College. So we're looking at a conflict of interest, and Hudak voted for him. You know, it's just, they just take a cavalier attitude towards everything. Meanwhile, you know, and you know I go to the meetings, and I ask them questions, and yes, they do ask some of them, but some of the hard ones, they just avoid answering. You know, I could say why, but you know, let's just continue on. I have some examples here. Back at the end of February, I think it was, there was the walk to Washington that they went on. I don't know who exactly it was, but they spent thousands of dollars, and one time the watchdogs actually figured out it cost about $10,000. So I asked them, I said, for the $10,000 that the taxpayers are paying you to go down to Washington, schmooze, stay overnight, possibly booze it up, like, you know, there's parties down there. But anyway, I said, what exactly do you accomplish? I'd like to hear what it is. They ignore it. You know, they just ignore me. They couldn't give me an overview.
At this time, can you summarize, please?
All right. Resolution 295 was for $298,000 in net of architects for pool renovation, and that's just for design, basic design. Anyway, so I asked, and they said it may be more. So I asked, well, give me an example of why it may be more. They ignored me. Resolution 289 is $300,000.
Please summarize and just not go down a tally list, please.
All right. I actually suggested on International Women's Day, that's where the freeholder meeting was, I suggested Amy Wagner, who's been working there, has experience as the deputy county manager. International Women's Day, I said, well, why don't you give her the county manager job since she has the experience and the oversight of what the county's about, instead of Ed Oatman, just bump him back down. You know, there's a chance to actually offer a great job to a nice woman as a county manager. Went by the wayside, so
thank you.
Keep that in mind.
Okay.
Please do something. I mean, you know, they're bad news down there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else like to step forward? Seeing none at this time, move on to unfinished business.
Mayor, may I comment on Mr. Patterson?
Okay.
Mr. Patterson, you stood up here before this council time and time again. So what is it that you're asking us, that you would like us to do for all the freeholders? What is it that you're asking that we as council members of Garwood can do to help your agenda, or help the agenda of Garwood?
Well, you have the powers to pass resolutions, just to give it to the other towns. One year, I don't know if Bob was around, or maybe Sarah was, but I said, why don't you just hold back the taxes? Because they're not the county anymore, they're just self-serving. You know, but that's beyond your responsibility. But it's an action that could be mulled over with other towns. Something needs to be done. Some kind of coalition I've suggested over the past years of all the other towns to finally stand up and say, whoa, you know, how about, you know, serving us, not self-serving yourself. I suggested other ideas like possibly a review of their ordinances and resolutions so you can actually comment on it and send it back to them. That might not have been my suggestion, but it might have been Councilwoman Tedesco, maybe somebody did. Anyway, so something like that. It's great that Councilwoman Tedesco has that revolving visit of the council people to go down there to actually see what's going on. I did see Councilman Lazaro there, but over the last couple of years, it's kind of been sparse to chastise you guys a little bit. But you do have the capabilities of giving voice to your constituents of Garwood. And how do you do it? Like I said, resolution is the easiest. Talking with other towns, New Jersey League of Municipalities, even the mayor's coalition that forms every once in a while that I really haven't heard of any reports out of that.
I gave two already, thank
You
you.
gave, okay, I'm very apologize for that.
That's all right.
But anyway, but that's something, that's also a venue that you could use through the mayor's coalition.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Okay, we'll move on again. Unfinished business, consent agenda. Do I have a motion to,
Pull to,
which ones are they?
resolutions, please. I'm going to pull 18-093 and 18-097.
Okay, do I have a motion to accept the amended consent agenda?
So moved, Mayor?
Second?
Ms. Ariema, roll call.
Councilman Kukrow.
Yes.
Councilman Lazaro.
Aye.
Councilman McCormick.
Yes.
Councilman Zorno.
Aye.
Councilman Disco.
Aye.
And Council President Blumenthal.
Aye.
Ms. Ariema, do you have any resolutions? To lead it? Great. Do I have a motion for resolution 18093?
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
Second.
Discussion?
Yes. I have a question. What is the rate that's being discussed in this resolution? It's not really, it is not clear. So if anyone wants to answer that for me,
Sure.
please.
Yeah, no problem. I don't know if we had spoken about it when we did the budget. I believe we
It was
had
in my
we
finance
did when
report.
you gave the report. So currently, the foreman automatically gets the $3 an hour raise. When we discussed it at finance, and we're going over all the raises, we compromised. I had previously put forth the possibility of an ordinance for an additional $3. We compromised during budget talks to an additional $2. So it will be $5 total for a foreman position.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Roll call, Ms. Ariema?
Councilman Kukrow.
Yes.
Councilman Lazaro.
Aye.
Councilman McCormick. Councilman Zorno.
No.
Councilman Disco.
Aye.
And Council President Blumenthal.
Aye.
Okay, do I have a motion to pass resolution 18-97?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Discussion?
I don't plan to support the budget as it stands right now. I believe there will be more commentary at the next meeting, but this budget really is utilizing a lot of one-time funds right now, and I believe that it is not prudent to do that. We should be saving that. We should be building up different funds. I know people don't want to hear about a tax increase, but we have to do what's responsible. We have to use safeguards for the future in case the market does crash. And I'll get into more of those points later. Maybe I can convince some of you to even change the budget in between.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Roll call, Ms. Ariema?
Mayor, before we move on, just one quick comment. I just want to put this on the record. I thought about bringing it up at the special budget meeting on the 6th, but decided against it. But since it's been raised twice, I feel it's important for the public to recognize that in past budget discussions, as we've had as a council, there was a discussion about using a one-time revenue called capital surplus to the tune of $80,000. And it was something that at first the Finance Committee was looking at using just about half the 1 year and then half the next. But Councilman Sarno brought up using all of it in that year. And so when evaluating the one-time revenue sources, I think it's important that we look at our history with that and also towards the future, which came up at the special budget meeting about a number of items that we can look forward to with next year with more redevelopment coming down the pike at new sites such as South Avenue 2, with the fees per unit paid there, as well as additional collection from the construction department. We have that shared service with Cranford, and we renegotiated that deal to be better for Garwood. Instead of 20% above the threshold, we'll now be getting 30% above the threshold, which is great, especially with this redevelopment happening, that's big money on permits, and so we can collect more through that negotiation. Just wanted to put that on the record, and thank you for that.
I gotta clarify the record. Number one, I recommended using some of that. We ultimately agreed to use 50 of 80,000 in that current year budget because it was not earmarked at anything. This is money just sitting there on my first year at council on a budget that I ultimately did not support. We can get into further debates, but I'll save it.
Can I say something, Mayor?
Yes.
You know, there are plenty of things in the budget that is not perfect. I am so excited and happy to support this budget for the main reason that giving some kind of hope for the people for the past 17 years of the increase in taxes. One year gives people so much hope. Like I said, Councilman Sarno, if there's any way that you can think of a way to spend less money,
A lot of them, they've been brought up here time and time again over my last 2.5 years up here.
well, like I said, I was very proud of this budget this year. And like I said, I didn't support the last two, but being part of this, I saw how hard the process was. And you know what, for 1 year for the people, that's all I was looking for.
Sammy, roll call, please.
Councilman Kukrow.
Yes.
Councilman Lazaro.
Aye.
Councilman McCormick.
No.
Councilman Sarno.
No.
Councilman Disco.
Aye.
Council President Blumenstock.
Aye.
Move on to new business. On the new business, I'm going to make some appointments to committees. Kathy Bellagio will be joining the Recreation Commission and the Celebrations Committee, and Debbie McCarthy will be joining the Celebrations Committee. Thank you, ladies. Payment of claims.
Be resolved, the following claims as approved, being the same are hereby ordered paid when properly signed and verified, and the payment of payrolls as listed hereby confirmed and ratified.
Do I have a motion to adopt payment of claims?
So moved?
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Kukrow.
Yes.
Councilman Lazaro.
Aye.
Councilman McCormick. Councilman Sarno.
Aye.
Councilman Disco.
Aye.
Council President Blumenstock.
Aye.
Okay, before we adjourn, don't forget, we're going to take a picture this evening. The regular meeting of the Mayor and Council will be held on Tuesday, April 10th, 2018, in Council Chambers at 7:15 p.m. Workshop session will start at 7 p.m. There will be a public hearing in Council Chambers on ordinance number 1804, 1805, 1806, 1807, 1808.
Not 1808.
Pardon?
Not 1808.
That's ordinance.
Okay, stand corrected. On Tuesday, April 10th, 2018, at 7:15 p.m. or sooner thereafter.
When's the next time we're getting a status update on paperboard? We would even discuss it sometime soon. Have you had any correspondence? Did I miss this?
Only that I know the committee met. I have seen correspondence. I haven't generated any correspondence, but no, I don't have a report on it.
Councilman, I can just say that on my own, yesterday, I was curious about the same thing, so I called up our redevelopment attorney, Bill Northgrave, and he said to me that they're in the process of discussing it with the special master where we were at when we left our committee meeting, and so as soon as he has something to report on, he's going to get that to the entire committee, so we know.
And speaking to Mr. Vinegar today, he said it's in the process yet, and hopefully in the future.
Right, I mean, I know how we left the committee. I'm glad it's being discussed with the special master, and we can get to a place where the rest of the council can be fully brought up to speed.
Okay,
Thank you.
very good. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.